I think this topic couldn't have come at a better time, right? Considering what we just heard on Friday and Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm not familiar too, I'm a business performance advisor here at Insperity. I work and help small to mid-sized level businesses with coming up with the decision of whether you want to keep HR in-house or outsource. And we talk a lot about strategy when it comes to your human capital management. How do you attract and retain people? And we give you resources that allow you to compete in the large market for talent. MJ is one of our service team members. She's one of 5 that you get in our partnership when you become a client at Insperity. MJ, do you want to talk about your role, or do you want me to?
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that. Hi, everybody. My name's MJ Davis, and I'm a performance specialist with Insperity. I work closely with Monica. Basically, in a nutshell, my role is I coach to human performance. So I do a lot of executive level coaching. I do a lot of team-based coaching. I'm based in Southern California. I have a fairly large territory, but it's absolutely a big passion of mine. And I'm excited to be here today. I am virtual. I just wanted to play it safe. And this is where I can actually say, thank you, technology.
Goodness.
Okay. Now, team or Monica, if there's any glitches or we have any IT issues, just let me know. Monica's got a backup. She might have her laptop, but I think we should be good to go. Our topics for today, I've actually been doing a lot of training and a lot of seminars discussing these, and I heard Monica say to all of you, very timely, especially with what is going on right now. So as we know, companies are really running lean, right? And meaner in 2023. And investors are being ultra conservative with funding, right? So what we're going to do, and we put this together for you today, is we're going to discuss how to run your company more efficiently, right? And effectively with the team you have today. So some of the topics that we're going to focus on are culture, cross-training your teams, retention, and succession planning. And at the end of our session with all of you, I know that I'm not there, but Monica's going to stay afterwards if you have any questions. And if any questions pertain to me and I am not able to answer, I promise you that we will get you the answer. Does that sound good? Okay. Okay. So before we dive in, Monica and I have a question. First of all, we love to be engaged. Even though I'm virtual, I'm still engaged with everybody. We want to start off with a question, okay? What is the biggest challenge you would say your organization is facing right now? I'd love to hear some feedback. So would Monica. What is the biggest challenge right now that you're feeling your organization is facing right now?
So revenue generation. And it goes along with maintaining margins, very challenging in this environment.
Yeah.
So you have revenue, you have margins. We look at it in terms of the term compression management.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Compression management. I like that.
Your bottom line operating expenses against your top line revenue.
Right.
I like that.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Well, we're at a pre-revenues stage, so it's really hitting our milestones and our targets and making sure that we're on track, right? Because timelines slip, especially when you're in R&D, right? There's always like big question marks, and how do we answer those questions most efficiently on a timely manner is one of the big challenges in any R&D environment. So,
okay.
I also can say for us, actually, we are a biotech company, early stage, and our biggest challenge is growing our employees, and especially when you're small, you have a lot of work to do, right? And spending time on finding the right employees is a challenge. You know, I can just probably add that on top of the others.
It is. And I've been working with a lot of companies, startups, various industries, and that a lot of executive level, C-level, suite, human beings are sharing that feedback as well. I think this is really going to be a very timely presentation to all of you. So I want to say thanks for your feedback.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
I think finding people in this environment is also difficult because the country is almost in full employment.
mm-hmm.
And I think, during the pandemic, a lot of people left the workforce.
Yes.
They did. Mm-hmm.
And our former president, I think, did a lousy job of cutting immigration
Mm-hmm.
and scared people off. So they don't want to let immigrants come to the country to take jobs away from Americans. But now it's very difficult to find employees. And as a result, it's difficult to find employees, and the ones you find are a lot higher. If it was $20 2 years ago, now it is $30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so those are, I think, challenges.
Yeah.
And also, especially in the software field, it's very difficult to find talent. And also they are moving all the time. And it is very difficult to make them productive as well.
Right. Keep them
So
engaged.
it takes a while to hire them. It takes a while to teach them.
Yes.
And then once they'll become productive, they want to leave.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We definitely are going to address retention and engagement, right, Monica?
Absolutely, and strategies around what you can do, because what's happening right now is very unique. Historically speaking, when unemployment rates are low, but we're going through a recession, those two factors in the economy historically don't add up, right? Usually unemployment rates high, a lot of entry-level talent that's out there, people need jobs, but right now, where did that workforce go? So we are in a really unique situation. So we have to adapt. We talked about this earlier, Tom, we have to pivot a little bit and find other ways to retain and recruit talent, especially in your space. Some interesting stats that I pulled online. I went online, did a lot of research about life science startups, technology startups in the biotech space, to see if I can pull some stats on attrition rates and also on talent pool. And so I found something here from the NIH talking about early stage company startups have higher attrition rates. You all do viability stage, your runway to proof of concept can be really long. It's saying here 8 to 12 years. So how do you find people, keep them with you for 8 to 12 years? I mean, that's the unicorn employee in essence, right? It'll stay with you, stay gritty throughout all the 12 years of employment or when you pass that viability stage, and now you can go to market and take your business to the next level. So what you're talking.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
So all of these challenges,
Yes.
our Federal Reserve is also doing a wonderful job of increasing the rates in 1 year from 1% to 5%. So everything is more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
On top of all of these challenges, I think, as you mentioned, it's becoming very difficult to make money. So the environment is even becoming tougher. And as a result of this sudden increase in 1 year, the steepest interest rate increase in our history, business history of the US, now the banks are going belly up. So I think it's a very challenging environment. There is a war going on. As a result, oil prices are always under pressure. So it's a perfect storm.
It is. You all will be part of history, okay? How you were able to adapt and conform and make changes swiftly and fast. So you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the perfect storm. But just like we were talking about, People are important. Finding the right people to be at the right seat at the table is incredibly important. How do you do it as a founder of a startup, right? More importantly, a tech startup, life science startup. Life science, I think, again, has the longest runway here for viability. So knowing this important statistic, founders need to start thinking, what is your recruiting and retention strategy? How do you find your people? What are you going to do to help them stay with you in the long run, right? And then MJ and I are going to touch on some strategies that'll and approaches that may help you increase those odds of finding those folks, okay? Because I'll be honest with you, we don't have the crystal ball.
Right.
We're a large Fortune 500 company. We're publicly traded with 4,000 employees. We're our own biggest client.
Mm-hmm.
So we are also learning with you. We just have more people to play with, right? We can get the results a little faster than you could in this life science space.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good segue into something I'm really passionate about. I speak a lot about. Okay, retention, keeping your team, keeping your people. This is a big deal. It is ultra important building a positive company culture. Ultra important. And how do you do that? Right? I chose a couple of key points that not only have I been teaching to and facilitating to, I've been hearing feedback from all levels out in the field. And I've seen what is working and I have seen what is not working. I am going to speak to establishing clear values, fostering the people that you have, the tribe that you have, collaborate and communicate, create an inclusive environment. And again, I think we were actually talking about this just a little while ago, really commuting your goals, being clear what the task at hand is. When you establish clear values for your organization, it's just really important that you have those core values, okay? And this should be discussed with employees on a regular basis so that they feel a part of it. And it is the commitment that an organization or a company makes to certain policies and actions, such as, are you going green or social change? It is not enough to state this in a mission statement in this day and age. I'm going to be very transparent. Even in your brand story or even in your marketing or your promotional material, it is crucial that leadership from top to bottom demonstrates actions that are taken regularly so that the employees feel like they're involved. They feel like they're personally responsible towards these values. For example, a mission statement, is helping, businesses succeed, okay? But how do you define that to your employees, right? Fostering collaboration and communication. Leadership and management styles have changed. The one thing that leadership really needs to do is encourage teamwork, be open, be honest, be a little vulnerable. It's vital to creating that positive feeling in the workplace. And I have to say, with everybody, budgets being cut, being lean, there are so many little things that mean the world to people in this day and age that really do not cost a lot. And I know you've heard people talk about this, but coffee in the morning, a team getaway, a focus group, an employee survey. We do these at Insperity. Get the temperature check, right? So that is just some examples of fostering collaboration. Also, inclusive work environment, team. A positive workplace is one where all employees are valued, hands down. They feel supported, they feel nurtured. All employees should have equal opportunities to progress and have access, equal access to all the perks and the rewards, of working there in an inclusive workplace. It's one of the values, and the individual differences in the workforce that makes people feel welcome and accepted. And last but not least, create clear goals and rewards for your employees. And Monica and I pulled up some great statistics. There was a survey that Deloitte showed that 83% of executives and 84% of employees rank having engaged and motivated employees as the top factor that contributes to a company's success. 83 and 84%. Motivated and engaged employees can be created if they are treated equally, right? And have clear goals so that they understand what they're working towards. And having a transparent policy for progression and promotion offers the staff a really incredible opportunity to measure their performance. I have to say this to drive this home: a positive culture in your organization creates a sense of pride and ownership. When people have pride, and we've all seen this, we've experienced this, when they have pride, they invest in their future, in the organization, in their team members. It shows in their work. They're those go-getters when they feel so proud that they create opportunities that are going to benefit the organization. So by IDing and rewarding those who are actively striving, like the people that you have right now, towards creating a positive work culture and supporting around them, companies can encourage others to do the same. Positive attitudes and behavior in the workplace, they're the direct results, and that comes from effective leadership and a positive management style. So enough about that.
I'm gonna ask
Go ahead, Monica.
a quick question just for the group here. Can you guys think of somebody on your team that gives you that discretionary effort? Like if you need help, they're the first ones to say, how can I help you? Do you guys have a team member like that on your team?
Yeah. Great question, Monica.
And I know some of the people in the room are so good. There's employees and founders that are here.
Right.
Thanks for having to answer the question, but
Maybe I can ask Arturo, because you're my employee.
yeah.
Do I do that for you?
Do you, what was it?
Like, I guess, like, do I give you the resources necessary to achieve your goals that we have outlined together, essentially? Yes. Okay. Got it.
And I think communication is key. If your team has a clear direction on where you need them to be and a timeline and what those deliverables are, we tend to give you that discretionary effort. And sometimes as founders, you get lost in the actual project management, right? Those milestone benchmark dates are so important that we just assume that our team knows what we need them to do. But that aspect and piece is incredibly important, especially early stage startups.
I do want to add a comment because it's funny that you guys bring this up. Like the slide is super important. We literally just like a few months ago, literally had all hands on team meeting, literally listing out all the values. Each person will basically say like, what do they value?
Wow, excellent.
Consistent with everybody. And we basically just go around the table and ask everyone, and say, present your values, present your culture values, all of these things. And it's really important because then we get aligned and really understand like what we value as a company, and that together, collectively, everyone's bought into. So everyone feels like they're actually personally involved with the company and they have contributed in some way to the company. So it's just, I find it really validating that you guys have that slide, especially since we have gone through that process of literally making sure that we establish like collaborative values, making sure that we have, like we're very feedback oriented culture. That's bi-directional. It's not just from manager to employee, but also from employee to employer, right? So those are like super important. We just want to be together as a team rather than, you know, like a hierarchy, right? And create the work culture as you guys are literally presenting here right now. So it's refreshing.
I'm gonna add this, you're very forward thinking, which is great. This is good. This is a wonderful trait of a leader. So absolutely, those collaborative environments are so key.
I want to echo what Josh said. That meeting was just like pivotal in getting everyone on the same page. There was a coincidence that most of our responses were aligned as far as like what we think the values of the company are and our goals, and having everyone there together and working towards getting on the same page was just great. And as an employee, I felt like much more invested and much more aligned with what we're doing. And so it really pays off.
That's right. It's the buy-in. It's the buy-in. You need the buy-in from your team. They need to have ownership in the actual end game. So that's beautiful. I would love to hear that kind of stuff. So anything you want to add to that, MJ?
Yes, thank you, Monica. I just want to say thank you for sharing your feedback. That is refreshing on my end to hear that. And I could even tell by the tone in your voice with some of the things that you were talking about that you're incredibly proud of what your organization is doing. So my hat is off to you because it's tough. You've got to be consistent. You've got to stand your ground. You've got to design it, right? Which is a really nice segue into culture by design, right? There is really, it's not culture by design. It could be culture by default. You have to have this design element to building your workplace culture. And you actually were talking about this just a minute ago. You know, there are 3 key steps that I wanted to put on this slide that I feel are very, very important. Number 1, and I apologize, I'm not sure of your names, but I know that you just spoke about this. You said identify your current values as an organization, right? Right? Culture can go really deep, especially when the heritage, the beliefs, the values of the organization are embodied in you, right? Even if it's a family-run business. I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners make is really not taking the time to figure out and define their company values. Knowing, like taking a step back, taking a breath, knowing what matters to you helps give you and your team and your workforce an ultra clear direction and understanding what your company stands for, right? Some businesses, I've seen this, some start with internal visioning sessions where they brainstorm with the team and they talk about values, continually asking the question. I actually had a CEO ask the other day, the question to his team, why is that personally important to you? That passion comes out, that feeling heard, seen, valued can really help define it, can really help define it. 2, get honest input from your employees. It's probably something that it's the easiest thing to do. And I see companies miss the mark day in and day out on this. So kudos to you for getting feedback from your employees. You know, you need to know, you know, what do we want our customers' experience to be like, depending on the service that you're providing? What do we want our employees' experience to look and feel like? What do we want our community's experience to look like? Then, you know, as a collective group, the values naturally are associated to behaviors can be further explored and defined. So doing so, all of that really empowers an organization as a whole. Number 3, nice little transition, use your values to guide your decisions and actions, right? Once everybody is aligned, right, and has been clearly defined, you're going to find that you're going to have this tool that you created that really, if you're looking at it, can help you in daily decision making. I've seen it. And culture can help you decide which people to hire, to fire, and even customers or partners you want to work with. And maintaining a well-built culture. Having the core values will help your organization maintain its culture, right? And remain people-centric. Financial metrics and numbers will validate what's working, but at the end of the day, it always starts with your people. Everybody, and I know you all know this, but everybody has a different rhythm and a different story, right? And a background behind the metrics of your business. There are individuals, you know, that ask. I had a young lady ask the other day, how do you inspire and empower your people, MJ? And we ended up talking for about an hour. The answers should always go back to the company mission, vision, and values. And I have to put this out there. It takes courage. It takes courage to build an intentional culture. It takes work, but when you create a culture by design, one that is values-based, right, and engages your employees, it is worth the effort, I promise you. So may I ask for you to commit to putting in the effort? And I have to say, before we talk about the next slide, our amazing founder and COO, and Monica, if you would like to chime in, you know, I took some of the information from Paul Sarvardi's book, and he lists these 5 stages, and it's take care of your people, the Enlightened CEO's Guide to Business Success. We were just Insperity. I'm going to brag a little bit, if that's okay. Insperity just won a very prestigious award from Glassdoor for being one of the top places to work. Okay, and when I think about Glassdoor and we do our research and I have friends that work there, flip it, usually Glassdoor is, okay, you go there, you get your temperature check. It's usually negative, like, oh, bad culture, layoff, lots of things. It was the complete opposite. So what I'm talking about, it works. Any questions, any feedback? Monica, do you want to chime in? Anything? I'm going to take a break and get a little sip of water.
Yeah,
Can I just chime in?
sure, absolutely.
I am on the investor side, and I'm obviously I worked and then I managed companies, but then I became an investor. And I always thought business is a team sport, and as a result, culture is very important.
Yes.
And in one company, I kind of had my predetermined values
Okay.
that I kind of worked for me in my life. And then I also looked at Amazon and I thought, wow, they are 100% aligned with me. So I just copied the Amazon's values. They had like 10. And I took this to a startup, one of the startups. I said, guys, these are the values.
Wow.
And then I noticed that nobody was really following the values because it was very much top down. It was just, I left it there. So
Okay.
I think involving your employees and
Yes.
and getting them, like Josh did with his employees, kind of speak up about their values.
Absolutely.
Then in that workshop to determine what is the value system for this specific company, for this specific team, for this specific people. Once they're involved, then they kind of own up to it. Otherwise, it's top down, it doesn't really, they're not really buying.
It doesn't land well or it doesn't stay.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right.
stay.
Yeah, I have a question for Josh. Now, how often, because your team has grown, like at the startup, your team grows like from 3 to 5 to 10, like, literally overnight to 20, right? How often do you, for in the startup stage, are you reassessing those values to make sure that, because as you onboard new key players,
Yeah.
right? How often are you as a team, as Vina Vitals, reassessing those values?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's changing that frequency, it definitely changes a lot, right? It was just me, Ray, and Michelle, right? In the beginning. We did this once, but it was easy because it's like literally just like 2 people you're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then as you start growing,
Yes.
like people have different personalities, different perspectives, and different reasons why they're joining a startup.
In different departments,
And different
right? Like
departments.
they have such different values the way they
Yeah.
operate too.
And we don't want people to be siloed, right? That's not the last thing we want. We want a collaborative environment, right? Just as like one of the values that you guys put in. Quite frankly, like we should probably do it more frequently. The last time we've done this was like, first time was just like the co-founders, and then recently we did it maybe once more, right? Like in the past few months, right? But I think it's gonna be more valuable depending on the size of your team and how fast you're growing, right? Because again, you want everyone to be aligned and on the same page and have their buy-in. And you don't want stragglers here and there just like kind of like becoming more isolated. So in order to get them all collectively together, like we've decided like as a team, like should we do this quarterly, should we do this annually? Obviously too like frequent is not good either, because then it becomes like, oh, it's the same thing over and over again. But right now, what we're trying to do is like annual basis, right?
Yeah.
And then we do have like more leadership value, like just kind of like leadership meetings as well, which is on a quarterly basis. So I think that frequency will be kind of dependent on like the size of your team and just like how, like it's going to be very dependent on that. To your point. So
I think at UOP we review we use quarterly, a review, like, does this still resonate? And then annually, we dive in all day on this whole vision tracker, right? Like, it's very much so, it's very methodical in the way that we talk about it.
And that's lent into you, UOP is a startup. Look at this.
We are a
success
startup.
that you've had in 3 years. I mean, the numbers are impressive. And it's those constant check-ins with the team, right? If you don't get that discretionary buy-in from the team, then you're not going very far. That's just a fact. We know that. We know that to be true. I know Josh, you mentioned earlier about the whole realigning, quarterly with the founders or maybe, annually with employees. when you are interviewing new hires, are you taking that information you get, from the feedback from your team to kind of make sure that you have that same similar alignment when you bring new people in with your culture?
Yeah, definitely. And I think because we've aligned, it's a lot easier to tell new people that come in, to tell them like what we value, right? Of course, because we've aligned on that. But then obviously they need to
Right.
also contributing and becoming a part of the team member as well.
Yeah,
And we try to make them very, like, I think one of the most important things is really trying to get their buy-in and being part of the company, right? It's not like just a 9-to-5 job, like just like clock in, clock out kind of job. That's the last thing that we want for our employees. We want them to be proud of what they're doing and really be wanting to be part of the company itself, right? And that goes back to the values, right? We want them to be proud of where they're working at, what they're working on, and really have ownership on the projects that they're on and actually be, I guess, like an essential component to the company, right? Like, I don't know, like a janitor, for example, right? They will probably think, oh, I just cleaned the, like the hallways, the buildings and whatever. But they're critical, they're very important, right? And they need to feel that value and like, that's how things run smooth.
yeah, I think that's one pivot we did, like last year, was hiring and firing based on our core values. Like that is just a big thing we implemented, I think, last year. Yeah, it's like, and then we built that into our interview questions, like ULP's core values are these 4 things. How does that resonate with you? And yeah, so we really try to build that in because we find that we can train anybody to do anything, but if we don't align on the values, it doesn't matter, we're rowing against each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we've got Emily here too, as part of the UL team to kind of just validate, but no, it's true, and you've done a great job, Karen, doing
Still
that.
so much work to do because like, as we're trying to grow, we need to figure out, like, I think we need to figure out this, so that's why I'm asking, like, how often do you do this? Like, sometimes I feel like we do it too much, like every quarter, I'm like, oh man, and then annually, we really like do a deep dive, like, how often are other startups doing this?
Yeah,
So how often do you do it? How often do you guys do it?
So you can look at it from an organizational standpoint. It's culture is all part of branding, but when you look at the depth of organizations, here in this environment, organizations are really on the basis of development and technology. But when you look at more diversified organizations, you have to look at marketing, you have to look at warehousing and distribution, you have to look at product design, you have to look at accounting, you have to look at operations, sales. So now from that perspective, you look at, well, what's the corporate culture for our brand, whether it's a service, technology, or product. Then you have that corporate branding strategy that can change continually based on the markets you're selling into, the environment, that can always change. But you can resonate by having a mission statement that really keeps everyone focused. But in the warehousing and operations area, their culture is going to be different because of the requirements that they have to the company and their accountability. And that accountability is a driver for each department. So with large organizations, overall needing a corporate culture, what we'll call department-wide, is not going to be a success for that company because it has to be for that specific department, but underneath the overall brand image of the company.
Mhm.
Good points, Thomas. Those are all great points. No 2 businesses are alike. That's the takeaway here, right?
Yeah.
There's a core competencies of a business that you have to be aware of, but no 2 businesses are alike. You have to adapt. You have to switch and change and like you mentioned, Thomas, your business has a lot of layers to it, right? You're already revenue generating, or some of our companies aren't. They're pre-revenue. Yeah. So but these fundamental, the foundation of building the business is really, it starts with your culture.
But we have pre-rev.
Yeah.
We're investing heavily in pre-rev.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's all over the map.
You really like adrenaline, don't you, Thomas?
Risk.
Exactly. You're a risk junkie here.
That's funny.
I did want to share something as I was listening to all of you talk. You brought up a very good point about values are very different in different departments, and I 100% agree with that. I challenge you with hearing about it, talking to these departments and figuring out how do you weave that into the company core values. And I agree 100% that every department, depending on where you're working, it's all different. It's very, very different. But if you can figure out a way to weave that in to the message, to the core message, I guarantee you, you will have a buy-in. Because there's a respect that happens, you know, there's something that happens, you know, when people are obviously are listened to, right? And we have found this at Insperity when we do surveys. I mean, they're very eye-opening, good and bad, but we do them for a reason, to find out. And actually, you know, this conversation we're having right now, this is what happened in a warehouse. People had been there for many, many years, heavy operations. Leadership would walk through. They would have a meeting, maybe buy them lunch, and say, these are the goals, this is the mission, here it is, painted on the wall, it's new, we invested a couple $100 on this, what do you think? And I was there during this walkthrough. And I'm trained to do this, but I watched the cues, I watched the body language, I watched who turned their chair around, I watched who was genuinely engaged. And then I had to do a debrief with the executives and go back. They wanted to hear. And I asked, have you executed a survey? Have you touched on with your managers, sitting down, you know, going in there and talking to them, getting feedback? And he said, well, we just did it with my elite managers who've been with the company for a while. And I would say he had about 10 to 12 new employees that were just hired. Like, you need to hear from them. So I'm glad that you brought that up. If you could figure out a way to weave these individuals, these human beings, your employees, their values into the core value and the mission, I guarantee you'll get a buy-in. So thank you for sharing that. Foundation for human capital best practices. Not sure if everybody knows, but I always like to read this out loud. Human capital is the economic value of worker skills and experience. So to put it in another way, it's their knowledge, right? Their experience, their effort. So that an employee has available to contribute to your organization, right? So by increasing these, you increase an employee's ability to provide additional value to your organization. Also, great company culture will make it easy to find talented employees who want to be a part of your organization. There are so many platforms, and I know we all know this, that are at our fingertips right now, where you can check, engage, and see who's looking. Maintaining your workforce. Oh gosh, I'm going to say, do right by your employees. Deal honestly with them. Be transparent. Just almost even like other relationships in your life, to a point, okay? Shifting your mindset to treating them as you would want to be treated can make a huge difference, regardless of the level in the company, right? We're all there to support the mission and the value. When people are treated the way that they want to be treated, you know, and we all talk about this, you see a huge difference. Paul, again, our CEO, literally wrote the book on this, treating employee well cared, take care of your people, you know, but as humans, focus on the human side of things. You know, having a culture that takes care of people, your employees, it's as important as a stakeholder. It also will help promote the company's growth and success. So I really wanted to put that out in terms of maintaining and doing right by your employees. Develop your employees. As noted early, employee development benefits not only your employees, but your organization, right? As the pace of, you know, our world today continues to accelerate, agility is proving to be a key component in adapting to change, right? Actually, there's an article on LinkedIn. It was an IBM study from 2018, estimated that as much as 85% of the jobs of 2022 didn't exist in 2018. So jobs like VCR repairman are gone. While they're disappearing, while you've got new jobs like cloud computing specialists, right, are growing, right? It's the world we live in. You've got to develop your employees and keep them on top of these advancements, right? You can better position your company to succeed with these new roles. And it goes without saying, I'm a huge advocate, reward success. Things really don't cost much. I might sound like a broken record, but there are little things that you can do, like gift cards or just a couple hours of PTO off for your birthday, you know, best practices led by somebody, employee spotlight. Oh my gosh, even just an Amazon gift card these days makes people crazy happy. So reward successes. It really, really works. And I've seen a lot of companies do it and it works.
Thank you, MJ.
You're welcome, Monica.
So again, going back to how to survive and thrive and being able to retain your people, find good people, attract and maintain them. I have a question for our investor in the room. I didn't catch your first name. Sai. How important is it for you as an investor of a company to have low attrition rates in the companies you're investing in? Is that a factor when you're looking at investing or the company health, their attrition rate?
You know, it is always a very high priority. Because it takes a long time to find the right person. And, you know, in that cycle, hire the right person and then say retain good people. So, retain good people means, eliminate the ones that are the ones mistakes, they are not good. So that takes a while to keep, you know, determine who are the good people, and they are the ones who are staying with the company. So if there is high turnover, they are losing good people, and it is so expensive to find new good people, to train them, to decide if they are good or not, and learn about the domain business. So turnover, losing people is detrimental to the success of a company.
That's a good point. The other risk factor too is your IP, right? A lot of people, attrition, turning over. You're working with very,
Exactly.
very
They are
sensitive
taking
IP.
Yes, and they are walking away with that IP.
Exactly. So again, it all incredibly important. When I talk to investors and we're talking about mitigating risk, we're talking about attrition rates, right? They're looking at companies they're telling me that that's one of the components that they're looking at, especially with very sensitive data and information. So all key.
And in this day and age, you know, if a company makes a successful announcement, is recognized as success, and it's in the news. First, the competition knows about this, and then what is the second thing they do? They go to LinkedIn and look at who's working where, and then if they want to do something competitive, the first people they will go after is those people. And there are also recruiters. You know, they are the ones who are following which companies, and they go after these people in a vicious way.
Aggressive.
So I think this day and age doesn't allow people to be greedy. I think they need to be a part of the team and share the success. And in the, you know, you need to reward them for the short term, and also you need to reward them for the long term. So you know, sharing equity in the company, so that we are all going for the right goal and then sharing the rewards.
I was just gonna say, how do you overcome that and equity? I know that comes up a lot with startups, if you can afford to do that with your early on hire, you know, like your good hires.
And I mean, I worked at Microsoft 10 years, and there were times that, you know, all of the employees, when I started there, it was 4,000 employees. When I left, it was 60,000. Now it's 200,000. So it was amazing that, I mean, these were the times that sometimes software engineers would go during the lunch break to buy a Porsche or something. Because at that time, they had made so much money. But at the same time, what happened was, I could see, you know, fathers with a lot of children, they would be coming to work weekends. They would be working day and night, because if they lost their job, it would cost them millions of dollars. Because although their salary was only $100,000.
They were big investors, right?
They were the stock options, unvested stock
Yeah,
options, or vested
vested.
stock
Oh,
options,
yeah.
at a lot of money, so it worked as a golden handcuff. But it was, I think that is really, to be honest, the power of getting people involved in the equity with the stock options and the stock. And then they buy into the company. And then they take accountability for the company. So basically coming back to you, I think really it would be kind of stupid to be very greedy with the employees
Mhm.
and as peons. That doesn't work, because then they will realize it, and then they'll go and get another job someplace else.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice little segue into surviving and thriving in a startup space. Being able, within capacity, to cross-train and develop people. When you are a startup and you have 4 employees, it's the 2 founders and 2 additional people, and one of them might be a part-timer admin. It's hard to cross-train, but it is possible. Main things that we ask you to do is really consider the business goals. Again, especially if you're pre-revenue, it might not be revenue generating, but it might be very big milestones, right? Project management, in order to get funding and go from a Series A to a Series B, or, you know, a seed round to a Series A, this is what we need to do, and have those clear goals defined. Each and every employee has to understand what their part in that role is. That's incredibly important. Talking to your employees, we talked about that earlier. Josh, you did a great job involving your employees, talking to them about these goals and how important it is to the viability of your startup, right? Every day, somebody give me an average of how much is spent daily on your business that's pre-revenue generating. Anybody want to kind of just go out on a limb and put like $1 on it, a guesstimate? And I'm talking about your payroll, because again, there's no money coming in. Your people,
Right.
equipment, supplies. Anybody want to take a monthly? Let me do not daily, but monthly. How much is going out?
You can easily use a starting point of 30K.
Yeah. So $30,000 is going out, and you've got a runway of what's the average, 6 to 8 years, or 8 to 12? What was that with life science startups to get past that viability? It's a lot of money. So being able to talk to your employees, lay out the objectives. Where do you plan to be from month 1 to 6? What is everybody's individual role to get you that particular milestone? Where do you need to be from month 6 to 12, right? Hold some accountability around those benchmarks. Another thing is not confusing readiness with potential. This is the time where you want to start asking people, what can they contribute outside of their core competency? If they're a scientist and they're a chemist and they only do that, start asking what else can they do?
Right.
You know, maybe it's going to an evening event. ULP hosts a phenomenal OC Live every 3rd Wednesday of the month in the evening. I met investors there. Great opportunity to get your people to do other things outside of their main job description that could help the greater good of your startup, right? And again, don't confuse your readiness with potential. You don't want to delegate these certain roles to certain people that don't thrive in that particular spot, right?
Right.
They're very introverted, doesn't really want to talk to investors, and they thrive being in the lab, or they love doing R&D, being able to speak to that.
Well, I don't know. I think they'd enjoy that OC Live dinner.
I see a lot of the people here at the OC Lives, and everyone's enjoying themselves with a nice glass of wine. It's nothing that a glass of wine can't fix, okay? And everybody's very social.
They're saying, oh, this is the first dinner they had in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, like out of the lab, like a real sit down dinner.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing too. So those types of things. I mean, something as simple too as a payroll. I mean, I'm in the payroll space too with Insperity. Show your employees how to process hours against projects and submit payroll, prepare it for you. And then your point of contact can just go and confirm and submit. Little admin tasks too that can help. Again, to give you that runway so you don't have to hire somebody part-time to come in and help if you don't need to. Yeah. Anybody experience that? I know there's a few folks here that do use amazing part-time folks to come in to help with administrative tasks. They also help with marketing. They also help, I see them out at OC Life and they do a little bit of R&D for the company. They do a little, they're like the Swiss Army knives. Anybody using a Swiss Army knife in your business today? Someone that can do a
Well,
little
we
bit?
have an ecosystem leverage. 1099.
We're all Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
So we just start to say,
Yeah. To be, right?
you need the scissors here.
I saw Karen in her high heels carrying a ladder a minute ago. I'm telling you, there's nothing
Yeah,
but
but did you
Swiss
see
Army
how
knife.
quickly I recruited help?
Yes, you did. And you didn't walk more than 3 or 4 steps before help came in.
I think it's the one thing on that list that I didn't say is like the people connection, right? I think like one thing is getting getting our people out there, connected with other people. I think it gives more meaning, value to your work. Like you get a bigger type of like outlook about like the meaning, cause, and why you're doing this. Like, you know, I remember like having like previous jobs where like they're like, you're not allowed to get out of the office. Like that's for upper management, right? You're only allowed to, you know, just spin around in the office at your desk in your cubicle. But I think like allowing even like your interns and your staff, you know, that are maybe our front desk, like to get out there to see like the true purpose and the meaning of the work and hear the thought leaders. I think that's really important. You're like, oh, okay, that's why we're putting our nose to the ground. So because startups work hard, right? It's like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we so focused on customer service or whatever? It's because this is the real meaning, because they're trying to create life-saving technologies, right? Then you attribute that to a bigger cause. I think it creates more meaning for the work that we do, especially in this space, right? It's life sciences.
Yeah, and it's great to be around like-minded individuals that are doing the
Yeah.
same thing. Sometimes you can be bogged down doing so
Yeah.
much research, 5 days a week, 40+ hours a week. It's nice to get out of that environment, like you said, Karen, and really get focused on the why. Why are you doing this? Why is it important? And being around people who are doing something very similar.
Yeah, I think even like for others, like, you know, even for like our interns, or I think it's really important to get involved because they need to find mentorship opportunities outside of, you know, this small little ULP, right? Maybe they can find like a Monica or an MJ to mentor them, right? That is outside of the safe. Like, I think people need to feel connected at the end of the day to
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Very, very good advice. On that,
Very good point.
just share one of my personal experiences.
Please.
So I'm a scientist, of course. I've been working with cancer cells, you know, and we are also working on curing cancer. I was at college, and once they brought us to a hospital, right? And then I saw a real person who is suffering from a solid tumor, head and neck carcinoma.
Oh,
It's very difficult to operate, right? So we've been, you know, making therapies for those, but not seeing those people and
Yeah.
what they're going through is really, you know, not good. So I'm just, after this discussion.
you're taking them to the hospital?
There's hope, right? After cancer.
Going there, exactly.
It's a meeting, right?
Talking to the patients, and then, you know, what we are doing.
It's
The
connecting.
importance of.
Yeah, it's connecting too, getting the feedback from those cancer patients, right? How are they struggling? You know, just being able to, again, they can be a mentor, you know,
Exactly, and you know, in life sciences, you know, we discussed about this, of course, stock options are very important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think company values, I think all of us in this room, we are trying to do something, you know, outstanding, provide a cure to the patient. I think this is a driving force.
Yeah,
And
because
exactly, so seeing, okay, so if you're successful, this is what's going to happen, right? Not
Yeah.
only the material things, but at the same time, you can help those
Yeah.
people.
I really like that. I like that seed was planted, Emery. That will be, it'll be impactful, to say the least, to your team. Yeah. How are we doing on time? Is everybody okay if we go a little over? It's 12:56. So if you have a hard stop, you're more than welcome to, we're gonna keep going, but if you need to go, please feel free.
We only have a couple more slides. I just want to say thank you for the engagement and the real life examples. This is really, really good for me to hear this, because we know that retaining your people, your human capital, your people right now tenure at startups, it's lower than job tenure in other industries. We all know that. Do you know that? And Monica and I pulled this from Carta. The median job tenure for startup employees is just 2 years, according to Carta. Hiring and maintaining talent at a startup level is hard. We know this. That's why we're talking to you today. I wanted you to see just a couple of key things that I thought were high level and very important. Some of them we've already touched on. Top retention issues or challenges. Having a culture by default, not by design. I touched on this before. Designing the culture, not letting it happen to you. Being intentional, right? About defining and shaping the culture. It's not about establishing values and structure that support your goals. It's about your people, okay? Poor understanding of job expectations. I see this a lot, and it might seem obvious, right? But many employees have a hard time performing. This is true even for established career professionals that I coach, since the expectations can vary from organization to organization, even in the same title, even in the same department. They're also better able to align with that they focus on the overall organizational goals. So my communication to you today, and we can help you with this, is establish clear job expectations, especially when you're writing up those job descriptions, when you're having those quarterly check-ins, when you're having those one-on-ones, right? Include the clarity on their role, their purpose, their goal versus the company goal, and responsibilities so that they know what they need to do to get the job done. Instill that sense of pride. A number of things that I see is the lack of long-term investment in people. Invest in your people. And yes, we're talking financial, but it's also growth strategy. Where does the organization want to go? What do you want it to look like in 5 years? Take a step back and look at your teams right now. Josh, I was thinking about you. Do your people have the experience needed to support your future goals, right? Strengths versus needs. What area is your team lacking? You have to, in terms of the leadership or a manager or high level, C-level, you have to understand the gaps. You have to plan for success. Another thing that I see, lack of standardization and processes. Take advantage of routine work to establish these processes and work to improve them so that more time can be spent on other activities. Really make sure that you ensure your teams, the right people that you involve, who use the process when they're looking for efficiencies and changing the process. Measure effectiveness. Another thing that I see, hiring employees for the wrong roles. Really utilize behavioral interview questions, which we do at Insperity. I absolutely love facilitating something called extended DISC, which really talks about personality, communication, behavior. I have a lot of organizations I work with. It is mandatory. That is part of the onboarding process. So make this part of your onboarding. This is really going to help you understand your team members when they come on board, how they like to be talked to, how they like to be supported. Even you can determine which skills you can teach versus which are more difficult, right? And then last, outdated performance management practices. You have to design this with your culture in mind, especially as a leader. You must be the top HR leader. You must also lead by example. Again, it does stem from the top, but like we were talking, you still need feedback from your employees so they feel valued, right? We do say over and over and over, it's leadership. It starts with leadership, but it's also your people again. So if you say one thing but do another, your employees will not pay attention to the messaging at all. And I've seen that happen. Make performance management a way of life, not an event, and actually make it fun. Why does everybody think about, oh my gosh, my review's coming up, or performance management? Make it fun. Even if you have to have an uncomfortable conversation, still extract and pull out things that individual is doing. And at the end of the day, you're helping them with their performance. You want to see them grow, right? It's really, I have to say, for performance management, it's got to be a way of life, not just an event. And less about the process, more about the positive conversation built on relationships. So now I'm going to take a little break, turn it over to Monica to talk about succession planning.
Can I just add one thing? I think
Yeah.
in the previous slide, can you?
There you go.
I think for retention, we also have to remember that people who like to be with most of them, they want to be with other people and they don't like being lonely.
Even scientists.
I agree.
And for a startup, this is a challenge because sometimes when there are two people, there are not enough people. And I think ULP, in my opinion, not only brings a lot of small teams together, also does the excellent job of doing a lot of events like this Pi Day example.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
And it creates. Emily and I talk about this. This is a tremendous value. Some of our employees, they would rather be in the cubicles so that they can talk to other people.
Yeah.
So
Distraught when he moved into an office. Window office.
So I think this is something that you guys under Karen's leadership, and with your help as well, does a great job. This is an important part as well.
Yeah, I had a startup before, and it was, we started with 3 people, grew up to 40 people, right? So in that kind of environment, when you're at 5, it's so hard to do something fun for your team. It's so hard.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
and 10, it gets a little easier because somebody on the team usually will be the cheerleader, they'll take it
Yes.
on, right? And then when you get 20, it gets a little easier, then you have a real party, but not really, right? So I think that's why we do these things, our little holidays and stuff, because I feel like you guys do need a space to connect. And especially we ask a lot of our people, we ask people to come in, right? In this remote work world, we ask, so it has to be an environment that people want to come to. You have to make people you have to have a nice workplace that's clean, because if it looks worse in your house, then nobody wants to be here, right?
Right.
The level, why do you like to go to the Four Seasons? Because it's, you're guaranteed the level of service.
And that's and also most of the innovation comes from collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think, people between different companies establishing friendships, they have fun, but they also get feeding of information, knowledge, ideas from other people. So that's very important for a work environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only does ULP staff you with the great equipment, right? It's millions of dollars of equipment, but you have the culture already here outside of your
peers.
Yeah, because this is very unique. This year is very unique. I work with other incubators, and this year is incredibly unique.
And this is why ULP is very busy. And one story down.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
Yeah.
There's another story.
Well, then you see the numbers. You see their numbers, and for years being a startup, the numbers are impressive, and it's because of you guys. It's the emulsification of all these companies together. You guys build the culture, and it's through leadership. It's through Karen's leadership and ULP's team. But
the team.
great stuff. Again, Karen, how I feel about ULP. You guys are a very, very unique situation here, and it's beautiful to see this. Yeah.
But it's so funny, the companies that really need to be here, that I've had several conversations about the HR, they never come to these things. It's always the great people like you. The people that really need to focus, they tell me their pain. They don't.
We'll have a compliance HR meeting, and they're really fun. We have the strategy ones, but if you want the hammer, all the new rules, we can bring that too.
They really need to focus, because I talked to all of each, and the ones that are really having the major issues, they're not. Yeah, they don't ever commit the time to invest to build their teams, right? I think it's you have to come and build your team.
They want to build companies, but companies are not buildings or equipment. Companies are people.
Yeah.
And you have to. It's a people business.
Yes.
Yeah, and we used to say in one company, our business is technology, or our real business is people.
Oh, is it? Yeah, people move to technology, not the technology.
Like all great points. Our last slide here is succession planning, right? When you're looking at succession planning and your people, the organization, your growth or your exit strategy can be very different. It can be an M&A, it could be a legacy. You leave the business
Right.
to either a family member or maybe another founding partner or an instrumental employee, or even if it's just selling. At the end of the day, your plan is to sell. So succession planning is really important. You have to start thinking about it from the beginning and then communicating that with the employees. I put this great chart up here. This is a chart that I use when I talk about the life cycle of a business and where you're at. That first entrepreneurial section, really what we focus on is your people, which is your talent, and risk mitigation, because that's what you as a founder need to be aware of, the executive team needs to be aware of, and your investors are looking on how you're mitigating the level of risk. But that first challenge, a lot of you folks are in that space, it's achieving viability. That's when you have 1 to 10 employees, and that's a really important part. Some people live in that achieving viability phase a little longer than others, but the main things that you have to be prepared for is just having some level of infrastructure. And then culture, we talked about culture by design. It's the best time to really build your cultures when you're small and get buy-in early on, because your employees will pass that through. As you move through that growth and you go into that emerging growth side, those are usually companies that are roughly around 15 to 20 employees, all the way through 50 employees. You have an accelerated amount of growth, right? You're moving quick, you're growing fast. Things can easily kind of spiral out of control if you don't have that foundational core part of the business set up with your risk and your people. But leadership development is incredibly important. Gaining a talent advantage. Going out there and finding the right people that can drive the business to the end game, right? Whether it's to be acquired, whether it's sell. Sorry, MJ, I think I cut you off a little bit there.
No, I just wanted to say to the team, I very much enjoy this visual, and I love how you're speaking to it. I'm actually learning as you're talking about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No,
it's fantastic.
That emerging growth is where you really have to start to think of the business like a business. You got to remove the founder hat and move over to the CEO hat. Going into that sustainable growth and the third challenge, getting ready to scale. Thomas, you could talk to this. This is where you have to have your ops. Your ops has to be well oiled. You're adding that component into your business, whether you're you have a manufacturing leg or a distribution leg to the business. So now you're getting even bigger. Now you're going from 51 employees to 100. Right? Middle management, org charts all have to be in place. Employee engagement. This is where you're going to be a little further away as a founder from your people than you were before at the beginning. So you need to leverage a lot of tools and resources. Another really important thing is KPIs. When you're getting ready and you're thinking about selling your business, your employees, there's a KPI, there's a value that you can build into your EBITDA through your people. The buying company wants to know, who are your A players? Who are your Bs? Who are your Cs? What liabilities am I taking on? They want to know all of that and being able to grade your team, right? And
That's something that, I think this is extremely important, and there are many lessons to learn from this slide. It's a very helpful slide. But I have one suggestion, only a suggestion. But to me, if I took this slide, I would change one word. Instead of saying succession, succession sounds like, okay, what is Emre going to leave the job? Who is he going to take his job? But he's only 40 years old, so he's not going to think about that.
Succession planning.
I think for Josh, I don't think succession is in your mind.
Oh, he's gonna move on to.
But I think if you change this to scale up planning, growing from stage to stage, then I think it becomes very relevant. Then all of a sudden they would
Yeah, no,
focuses a lot more.
you're spot on. I think it's a hybrid of both. At the end of the day, when I'm talking to my clients or founders, I always ask them at the very end, when you see the exit strategy, the succession, what's the goal? What's the goal for the business? I have some founders that are like, no, I'm sticking it through. Like you said, I'm 40 years old. I'm going to see this through. I don't plan on leaving, but being able to have a plan to scale up and to have that defined